The hatchet is probably the best survival tool, and if I could only take one, it's be the one I'd take myself. However, most people don't know how diverse this tool is, so in this video I'm going to show you how to get the most out of your hatchet. I'm going to build a full bow drill set using nothing but a hatchet. And I'm going to build the entire thing out of hazel. Now I actually filmed this video twice as I wasn't happy with the results the first time. That's why there's jump cuts and I'm wearing different clothes in it. The hatchet I'll be using in this video is just the one that I modified in my last video, so if you're interested in that, go check that out before you watch this one. Fully modified their own hatchet using no power tools. So I'm going to start down here at the bottom position on the handle. It's probably the one most people are familiar with. This is the one that generates the most power but the least accuracy. This is the bit we use for doing things like splitting wood and chopping down trees and other such heavy duty, lots of power tasks. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this part as most people are very familiar with this. However, we can still use this long position to make quite precise cuts simply by holding the wood against the axe and then slamming them against a hard surface like this tree branch here. A more unorthodox use for this long position, this is part of the video where I made a bushcraft vise. We can actually use the hatchet as a hammer. Now make sure you keep your face well to the side so that you're not swinging that sharp bit directly back towards your face, but this works actually very effectively. Now some people tell you not to do this as it might deform the eye of the axe. However, if you're not doing this regularly and you're hitting things soft like wood rather than metal, you shouldn't actually have a problem with that. Now if you did have to do this with something like a nail, simply place a piece of wood over the top and then hammer it with the back of the hatchet to protect the spine of your hatchet. However, as we move up the handle to the middle position, we really start to explore this tool's diversity with different hand positions and getting into the head positions. Now I'm going to take this section, take all the burrs and stuff off it, flatten out both sides and use this as my half board. This middle position gives us a good balance between power and accuracy. So here I'm trying to be quite precise and only take a very small part of the side off. And here the hatchet is far better than the knife because I can take far bigger chunks off with it because of the extra power. But I can also be fairly accurate with it as it's close enough for this work. And here, as I'm trying to make a bow drill, I'm using it to knock the burrs off the wood and flatten it out to make a half board, and I'm going to use it to make a spindle for the bow drill. Here I'm going back and forth each side to fully flatten it out to give me a flat half board. Here I'm using that same hand positioning technique to sharpen the end of a stick into a stake, allowing me to use it for building projects later on. Now as we get up into this top position here, this is probably the position people are least familiar with. It gives us the most control but the least power, but it allows us to do things like fine carving work. So we've got this straight enough piece of hazel here. That's going to be our spindle for our bow drill. Going to point out this end, chamfer out that end and knock off these extra burrs here. Here I'm using it to modify the ends of the spindle, making one into a sharp point like a pencil and the other just slightly chamfered so that it fits into the notch on the bow drill. There were some quite big burrs and knots in this bit of hazel, so it took a while to work them out and quite a bit of force to actually pry them off and smooth them out. Now here we're actually exploring different parts of the hatchet head. We're going to use the point at the top to drill a hole into the half board for the spindle to fit into. Now don't go too fast with this step, you want to take your time a little bit. The axe head is wider than a knife head would be, so you want to be very precise, go slow so that you don't make the hole too big. And stopping every so often just to make sure the spindle fits in there nicely. Now we have the spindle and the half board done, I'm just going to split a piece of wood to use it as the bearing block. Then I'm going to repeat that same drilling action that I used on the half board on the bearing block. So we've got our spindle, half board and bearing block done. Now I just need to make a small split in each end of this for the bow and then we'll be done. Now, although this video isn't about the bow drill or the friction fire, it's about the hatchet. Making fire, and particularly friction fires, is one of the top survival skills that you should have. So knowing how to do it entirely with one tool like the hatchet is an amazing skill to have. Now we've got the whole kit made, it's time to put it all together, and starting off slowly, just working it in there, making sure it's all smooth, and then if there's anything that needs correcting, spindle ends need manipulating, any of the holes need making bigger, we can work that out as we go. We're just getting the kit moving and getting ready for that burning. Now every bow drill set you make is unique, so it's important to take it slow, find the range of motion and find that it's working properly. When you smell burning and start to get a little bit of smoke, you know your burning is doing well. It's time to stop and carve a notch to allow that ember to collect in the dust on the bit of bark underneath. Now it's time to dig the notch in here. Again, we're able to use that very fine control in that top position to make very small cuts to slowly work away the wood to cut out that notch for that fireboard. Again, it's important to go slow, not to remove too much wood and make that hole too wide. So there's our notch cut, so let's see if we can get fire with it. Though I kept getting smoke constantly, I couldn't figure out why it kept binding right at the end just as it was getting to an ember. The wood would keep binding and just basically seizing up. However, looking back at the footage, I can see that I was actually tilting the bearing block, which was actually causing it to wear on the spindle. So that was my fault. It's not a fault of the hatchet and it's not a fault of the kit. In the end, I couldn't quite get there. But I think it's proof the kit works. It's more my skill than it was that, and it's proof that the hatchet can do what it needs to do. I could make a video literally hours long showing you every tip and trick and hack that you can do with your hatchet. That really wasn't the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is to show you all the main skills that you can do with one of these. So there we have it, guys. I've shown you how to utilise and get the most out of your hatchet, fully utilise the handle, fully utilise the head. It's also something to consider if you are buying your own hatchet or making your own hatchet. Consider hand positions, consider the shape, profile, sharpness, size of the head of your hatchet as well. That's just what's comfortable for you, you know. Some of these hatchets out there are very, very expensive, and if you're spending a lot of money, make sure you're doing it right. I don't think you're going to buy a perfect hatchet. Some people recommend Grand Force Brook, say it's the perfect hatchet, but that is personal preference, you know. I've held expensive hatchets that other people have had, and I just didn't like the feel in the hand. I like the feel of this one. It is almost perfectly for my hand size. I am pretty much a bang on average size man, and this just seems to have been perfectly designed for my hand. It's comfortable in every single position. Even with this little bit wrap on there, it's still comfortable there. So consider that when buying a hatchet, or buy a hatchet and modify it to your liking, guys. But I hope this has shown you how you can get your most out of your tool. Thanks for watching this video, guys. In the future I might make an extended hints, tips and tricks video, but for now, I hope you've learned something. Have a fantastic day.